Welcome to Miss Retro Reads. Well, saddle up your pony because I'm going to tell you a Western story. The Man from Red Dog by Alfred Henry Lewis. Let me try one of them cigars. It was the pleasant after-dinner hour, and I was on the veranda for a quiet smoke. The old cattleman had just thrown down his paper. The half-light of the waning sun was a bit too dim for his eyes of 70 years. "Whenever I behold a cigar," said the old fellow, as he puffed voluminously at the principal I passed over, "I thinks of what that witness says in the murder trial in Socorro." "What was y'all a-doin' in camp yourself?" asked the judge of this here witness, "the day of the killin'?" "Which," says the witness, on crossin' his legs and lettin' on as he ain't made bashful and uneasy by so much attention bein' shown him, "which I was a-eatin' of a few sardines, a-drinkin' a few drinks o' whiskey, and a-smokin' a few cigars, and romancin' round." After this abrupt, not to say ambiguous reminiscence, the old cattleman puffed contentedly a moment. "What murder trial was this you speak of?" I asked. "Who had been killed?" "Now, I don't reckon I ever does know who it is gets downed," he replied. "This here murder trial itself is news to me complete. They was waggin' along with it when I trails into Socorro that time, and I merely santers over to the cot that away to hear what's goin' on. The judge is sorter gettin' in on the play when I was listenin'." "What was the last words of this here gent who's killed?" asked the judge of his witness. "As nearly as I keeps tabs, Judge," says the witness, "the dyin' sentiment of this person is 4 aces to beat." "Which, if the deceased had known Socorro like I does," says the judge, "like he's committin' to himself, he'd surely realize that such remarks is simply suicidal." Again the old cattleman relapsed into silence and smoked. "How did the trial come out?" I queried. "Was the accused found guilty?" "Which the trial itself," he replied, "don't come out. There's a passel of boys who's come into town to see that justice is done, and being the roundup is going forward at the time, they naturally feels horrid and pressed for leisure. They'll oughter be back on the range with their cattle. So the 5th day, when things is loiterin' along at the trial till it looks like the law has hobbles and the word goes round it's goin' to be a week yet before the jury gets action on this miscreant who's bein' tried, the boys becomes plumb agitated and wearied out that-a-way, and kicks in the door of the calaboose. They search out the felon, swing him to a cottonwood, not otherwise engaged, and the right prevails. Naturally, the trial bogs down right there." After another season of silence and smoke, the old cattleman struck in again. "Speaking of killin's, while I'm in the frame of mind of bloodshed, I'm so discouraged just now by what I've been readin' in the paper about a duel between some Italians, and it sorely tries me the way them alien plays hoss. It's obvious as stars on a clear night that they never means fight a little bit. I abhor duels and cowers from the mere idea, but after all, business is business, and when folks fights the object the meetin' oughter be blood. But the way these here Europeans shorthorns fixes it, a gent surely runs a heap more risk of becomin' an angel abrupt, attendin' of a Texas cakewalk in a purely social way. Do they ever fight duels in the West?" "Why, yes, some. My Mimi comes a canterin' up right now with the details of an encounter I once beholds in Wolfville. There ain't no time much throwed away with a duel in Southwest. The people's mighty extemporaneous, and don't go browsin' round, none sendin' challenges and writin' and that sort of flamdoodle. When a gent notices the signs a gettin' about right for him to go on the warpath, he picks out his meat, surges up, and declares himself. The victim, who is most likely a mighty serious and experienced person, don't copper the play by making vain remarks, but brings his Gatlin into play surprisin'. Next, it's bang, 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 mixed up with flashes and white smoke, and the duel is over complete. The gent who still adorns or midst takes drink on the house, while St. Peter unbars things a lot and arranges gates and sets checks with the others in the realms of light. That's all there is to it. The tide of life again flows onward to the eternal sea, and nary a ripple. Oh, this here Wolfville duel. Well, it's this-a-way. The day is blazing hot, and business layin' prone and dead just blistered to death. A passel of us is sorter pervadin' round the dance hall, it bein' the biggest and coolest store in camp. Amont game is strugglin' for breath in a feeble, fitful way in a corner, and some of us is a-watchin', and some a-sweatin' round loose a-thinkin', but all keepin' mum and still 'cause it's so hot. Just then, some gent on a horse goes whoopin' up the street, a-yellin' and a-whirlin' the loop of his rope, and allowin' generally he's havin' a mighty good time. "Who's this here tumultuous man on that horse?" says Ernest, a-regardin' him in a displeased way from the door. "I meets him up the street a minute back," says Dan Boggs, "and all allow he's called the man from Red Dog. He says he took a day off to visit us, and aims to lay waste to the camp some time before he goes back." About then, the Red Dog man notes old Santa Rosa, who keeps the Mexican Bale Hall, and his old woman Marie a-fussin' with each other in front of the New York store. There's locked horns over a drink or something, and is powwowin' mighty unamiable. "Whatever does this here Mexican family mean?" says Red Dog man, surveyin' 'em plenty scornful, a-draggin' their domestic brawls here out in the street. With this, Red Dog man dropped the loop of his lariat round the two contestants and jumps his bronco up the street like it's come out o' gun. Of course, Santa Rosa and Marie goes along on their heads. They goes coastin' along until they gets pulled into a mesquite bush, and the rope slips off the saddle, and there they be. We all goes over from the dance hall to extricate 'em, and finally they round up mighty helpless and weak, and can only walk. They sorely lose enough hide to make a pair of leggins, which I brings 'em together like twins," says the Red Dog man, riding back for his rope. "I offers to no one no limit. They don't fight none whatever for 2 months, which, as it sorely looks like he's right, no one takes him. So Red Dog man leaves his bluff a-hangin' and goes to the dance hall, a-givin' of it out cold and clammy. He meditates libatin'. "All promenade to the bar," yells the Red Dog man as he goes in. "I'm a wolf, and it's my night to howl. Don't rouse me, barkeep, with the sight of merely one bottle. Set 'em all up. I'm fastidious about my firewater, and likes chance to select." Well, we all takes our inspiration, and the Red Dog man tucks his under his belt, and then turns round to enright. "I takes it you're the old he-coon of this here outfit," says Red Dog man. "Which if I ain't," says Enright, "it's plenty safe, as I played to let your wisdom flow this-a-way till the he-coon gets year." "If that's anything," says Red Dog man, "I turns from sick, its violence and devastation. But I hears such a complaints constant of this here camp of Wolfville. It takes my first idle day to ride over and line things up. Now here I be, and while I regrets it, I finds y'all in lawless orgiment set, a heap sight worse than rumor. I now takes the notion, for I see no other trial, that by next drink time I climbs into the saddle, throws my rope round this den of sin, and removes it from the map. Naturally, says Enright, some sarcastic, and making them schemes you ain't looking for no trouble whatever with a band of terrapins like us. None whatever, says Red Dog, mighty confident. In 30 minutes I distributes this year Hamlet round in the landscape, same as them greasers, which feats becomin' history, and then canters back to Red Dog. Well, says Enright, it's plenty polite to let us know what's comin' this way. Oh, I ain't tellin' you none, says Red Dog Man. I simply lets fly this hint, so any o' y'alls as has got bric-a-brac he values, he takes warnin' some and packs it all off safe. It's about then when Cherokee Hall, who's looking on, shoulders in between Enright in, the Red Dog Man mighty positive. Cherokee is a heap sot in his ideas, and I sees right off he's took a notion against Red Dog Man. As you've got a lot of work cut out, says Cherokee, eyeing Red Dog Man's malignant. S'pose we tips the canteen again. I surely goes you, says the Red Dog Man. I drinks with friends, and I drink with foe, with the pard of my bosom and the sudderin victim of my wrath, all similar. Cherokee turns out a big drink, and stands a-holdin' of it in his hand. I wants to say right here, this Cherokee's plenty guileful. You is namin', says Cherokee, some public improvements you aim to make, such as movin' this here camp round some, I believes. That'll start in 15 minutes, said Red Dog. I've been figurin' on you, says Cherokee, and I gives you the result in strict confidence without holdin' out a kyard. When you all talks of tearin' up Wolville, you're a liar and a horse thief, and you ain't goin' to tear up nothin'. What's this I hear? Yells the frenzied Red Dog Man, reachin' for his gun. But he never gets it, for the same second Cherokee spills the glass of whiskey straight in his eyes, and the next he's anguished and blind as a mole. I'll fool this here human Simon up a lot, says Cherokee, a-haulin' off Red Dog Man to the floor, face down, while his 9-inch bowie knife shines in his hand like the sting of a wasp. I sure fixes him so he can't get a job clerkin' in a store and grabbin' the Red Dog Man's hair, which is long as the mane of a pony. He slashes it off close in one motion. There's a fringe for your leggins, Nell, remarks Cherokee, a-tauntin' of the crop over to furrow Nell. Now, Doc, Cherokee goes on to Doc Peets, take this here Red Dog stranger over to the red light, fix his eyes all right, and then tell him if he thinks he needs blood in this. To take his Winchester and go north in the middle of the street. 29 minutes by the watch. I steps out'n the dance hall door a-lookin' for him. Point him to the door all fair and square. I don't aim to play nothin' low on this here gent. He gets a chance. Doc Pete sorta accumulates the Red Dog Man, who is cussin' and carryin' on scandalous, and leads him over to Red Light. In a minute, word comes to Cherokee as his eyes is roundin' up all proper, and that he's makin' war medicine and is growin' more hostile constant, and to heal himself. At that, Cherokee, mighty calm, sends out for Jack Moore's Winchester, which is an 8-square latest model. Oh, Cherokee, says Pharaoh Nell, beginning to cry, and curling her arms round his neck. I'm afraid he's going to down you. Ain't there no way to fix it? Can't Dan here settle this with Red Dog Man? Cert, says Dan Boggs, and I make the trip too gleeful, just to spare Nell's feelings, Cherokee. and not to interfere with no gent's little game, I takes your hand and plays it. Not none, says Cherokee. This is my deal. Don't cry, Nellie, he adds, smoothing down her yeller hair. Folks in my business has to hold themselves ready to face any game on the word, and they never weaken or lay down. And another thing, little girl, I gets this red dog sharp sure. I'm in the middle of the run o' luck. I holds fours twice last night, and with a flush and a full hand out agin 'em. Nell at last lets go of Cherokee's neck, and being a female and timid that-a-way, allows she's go and won't stop to see the shootin' none. We applauds the idea, thinkin' she might shake Cherokee some if she stays. And of course, a gent out shootin' for his life needs his nerve. Well, the 20 minutes is up. The Red Dog man gets his rifle offen his saddle and goes down the middle of the street, turning up his big sombrero, and squares round, cocks his gun, and awaits. Then Enright goes out with Cherokee and stands him in the street about 100 yards from Red Dog man. After Cherokee placed his hold up his hand for attention and says, "When all is ready, I stands to one side and drops my hat. Y'all fires at will." Enright goes over to the side of the street, counts 1, 2, 3, and drops his hat. Bangity, bang, bang, goes the rifle like the roll of a drum. Cherokee can work a Winchester like one of these here Yankee alarm clocks, and that Red Dog hold up don't seem none behind. About the 5th fire, the Red Dog man sort of steps forward and drops his gun, and after standin' on steady for a second, he starts a cripplin' down at his knees. At last, he comes ahead on his face like a landslide. There's 2 bullets plumb through his lungs, and when we gets to him, the red froth is comin' out of his mouth some plenteous. We packs him back into the red light and lays him onto a mount table. Bimeby he comes to a little, and Pete's asks him whatever he thinks he wants. "I wants you all to take off my moccasins and pack me into the street," says Red Dog man. "I ain't allowin' for my old mother in Missouri to be told as how I dies in no gin mill, which she surely abominates of 'em. And I don't die with no boots on neither." We all packs him back into the streets again and pulls away at his boots. About the time we gets him off, he sags back convulsive, and there he is, as dead as Santa Anna. "What sort of game is this anyhow?" says Dan Boggs, who while we stands there has been pawing over the Red Dog man's rifle. "Looks like this vicious party's plumb locoed. His hindsight's wedged up for 1,000 yards, and he's been a-shootin' of cartridges with 120 grain of powder in 'em. Between the sights and the jump of the powder, he's shootin' plumb over Cherokee and aimin' straight at him." "Nellie," says Enright, looking remorseful at the girl, who colors up and begins to cry again, "did you cold deck this here Red Dog sport this-a-way?" "I'm afraid," sobs Nellie, "he gets Cherokee, so I slides over when y'all is waitin' and fixin' his gun some." "Which I should surely concede you did," says Enright. "The way that Red Dog gent manipulates his weapon shows he knows his game, and except for you a-settin' things up upon him, I'm powerful afraid he'd spoiled Cherokee a lot." "Well, gents," goes on Enrights, after thinking a while, "I reckon we all might as well drink on it. History never shows a game yet, and a woman in it, which is on the square, and we meekly bars our burden with the rest." The end. I hope you enjoyed that. Hope I pronounced everything correctly. It was all written phonetically. And thanks for listening to Miss Retro Reads.